A smelly start to summer in Paris today on the World. I'm Marco Werman. France is getting ready to host a major soccer tournament and the Tour de France, but garbage strikes and bad weather have tourists and locals alike holding their noses.
They want to do what you normally do in Paris, which is sitting at a Paris cafe outdoors, but you can't because of the stench.
Plus, a writer tells me how much the poet Rumi means to Iranians.
Whether you're dealing with heartbreak or a broken salt shaker, literally, people will whip out a Rumi poem.
And a kid from Bombay remembers meeting Muhammad Ali.
I ran to him. He lifted me up and he kissed me on the cheek. He was the first American I remember meeting.
Those stories coming up today here on The World. So, April in Paris? How about all of France in the springtime and summer? Should be beautiful and postcard picturesque, but France has not exactly been its lovely self of late. In recent weeks, France has faced protests, fuel shortages, once-in-a-generation floods. In Paris, it's starting to smell thanks to a wave of strikes that have disrupted trash collection. And then there's the state of emergency, which has been in place since last November, when coordinated attacks in Paris killed 130 people. One target of those attacks was the Stade de France outside Paris. 2 bombs went off there. Same place where the month-long European Championship soccer tournament kicks off tomorrow. More in a couple of minutes about the security concerns surrounding the tournament. First up, though, reporter Adeline Sia in Paris. What is it like right now in Paris, Adele?
Well, Marco, to be just like you and be an iconoclast, I would say nothing says springtime in Paris like the smell of garbage. So, it's not April in Paris, it's June in Paris. And now that we're finally seeing a beautiful, warm, sunny day today, which was quite pleasant after all the rain and floods we've had, you see Parisians and tourists out and about, and they want to do what you normally do in Paris, which is sitting at a Paris cafe outdoors, but you can't because of the stench.
There have been a lot of strikes. Which ones could actually affect soccer fans?
Take your pick. There's the National Railway strike on its 9th day of strike, mind you, and it's still going tomorrow, we learned today. So there are still a few trains available, but the commuter trains here in Paris are affected, which is a problem because the Saint-Denis Stadium you mentioned earlier, slightly on the outskirts of the city. So that means for visitors trying to get to the opening game here tomorrow about public transportation, they may have a hard time doing that. And actually, there's going to be a national strike next Tuesday, June 14th. So that promises to be really paralyzing the whole country.
Wow. So on top of the strikes, there's still people dealing with the wake of those terrible floods. Do you see any residue of that disaster along the banks of the Seine in Paris?
Yes. First of all, the color of the water is very strange. It's sort of brown pea soup. And then you see tree trunks floating at the top, which is not something you see a lot around here. And then there's dried mud on the banks of the river, sand, and it seems, fortunately, that the city's cleaning services are not on strike, so they're scrubbing all of that mess right now, and hopefully it'll take a few days.
Are the French concerned about how this is going to affect the image of Paris?
Yes, absolutely. I'm concerned about this myself. I mean, I just walk around and I think if you've never been to Paris and you arrive here today or tomorrow for the Euro 2016 or anything else, you're going to have transportation issues to deal with. And if you even make it into the city, you're going to see those iconic banks of the river covered in mud and garbage piles everywhere. And they also fear that the strike culture, everybody knows the French have a strike culture, but this is probably one of the worst times to have a strike for France. The Daily Le Parisien had a headline today, a bit sarcastic, that read, Bienvenue en France, as in, well, welcome to France, with a photo of workers on strike.
Tomorrow is the opening game, but there's expected to be a big crowd tonight around the Eiffel Tower. What's going on there?
There are 10 huge fan zones across France, and the biggest and most glamorous one, of course, is at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. So tonight there's going to be a big concert, lots of major pop stars, renowned DJ. The British daily The Independent actually quoted a French security source saying that creating those 10 fan zones across France was as if we had created 10 open-air Bataclans and invited the jihadists to do their worst. And they're referring to the Bataclan theater there that was attacked, of course, in last November, and 90 people were killed there.
All right, Adele, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Marco.
There are plenty of reasons to be thinking about security planning in France right now. Let me turn to Time Magazine's Vivian